There was no other option and it was impossible to have the life I wanted. Prince Harry wore his heart on his sleeve last night as he spoke publicly about his sadness at giving up his royal duties. Since his shock announcement, Harry said he and Meghan had hoped to continue serving the Queen without public funding. But over the weekend, it was decided that wasn't possible. All this as Meghan's father told a Channel 5 team that they're making the royal brand shabby. Our royal correspondent Simon Vigar reports.
It was at an event for the first charity he ever set up that Harry spoke from the heart.
I've grown up feeling supported from so many of you, and I watched as you welcomed Meghan with open arms, as you saw me find the love and happiness that I'd hoped for all my life. Finally, the second son of Diana got hitched. Hooray.
Filmed by his own Sussex Royal Instagram team, Harry explained that he's been unable to persuade the Queen and Charles that he can be part royal and part businessman.
I've accepted this, knowing that it doesn't change who I am or how committed I am. But I hope that helps you understand what it had come to, that I would step my family back from all I have ever known, to take a step forward into what I hope can be a more peaceful life.
Centre Ballet is the charity he set up in 2006 for AIDS orphans in Lesotho. Centre Ballet's boss says there were mixed emotions at the fundraiser. How is he at the moment?
Well, I think a lot of people will have seen how he is from the speech he gave last night, which is, he's committed to the UK, he's passionate about continuing to support the Queen, and sad also, as you heard, by the way that this kind of complicated affair has ended up in a probably suboptimal result from his point of view.
Suboptimal is the polite description for Meghan's relationship with her father. It has never recovered since Thomas Markle's no-show at the wedding almost 2 years ago. And in a documentary to be shown on Channel 5, he criticises the Sussexes for damaging the monarchy.
They're destroying it. They're cheapening it. They're making it shabby. They're turning it into a Walmart with a crown on it now. It's something that's ridiculous. They shouldn't be doing this.
Today, Harry was alongside the Prime Minister at the African Trade Summit. But in the spring, he'll stop being referred to as His Royal Highness and end ceremonial duties like this. But maybe not forever. Diana had HRH removed completely. One of the Queen's biographers says she is treating Harry differently.
She has very clearly decided, you're very much part of my family, you're very much part of the royal family, but you're not royal if you're going to do this other stuff. You're going to have to do it under a sort of separate aegis. But if you decide you want to come back, the door is open.
Never say never, but Harry seems set on this course.
I know I haven't always gotten it right, but as far as this goes, there really was no other option.
It is his route out of the only life he has ever known. And for all involved, it is more in sorrow than in anger.
Let's get more on this now. With me is the royal historian Robert Lacey, who's also a consultant on the TV series The Crown. Russell Myers is the royal editor of The Mirror. And of course, our very own royal correspondent, Simon, joins us in the studio as well. Rob, if I could start with you, just watching Prince Harry speaking the way he was last night, you could clearly see, obviously very emotional. He said he was sad. And he's done so many speaking engagements, speaks so much. And this, I don't know how many times I've actually heard him stutter when actually giving a speech. What was your reaction to what he had to say?
Well, the sadness we're all feeling. I was interested by the way it was presented. It wasn't filmed professionally. It was one of his people had held up an iPhone and he released it. And that's the way it's going to be in the future, that he wants to... I mean, he's not withdrawing from some sort of royal duties and identity. He says he wants a progressive sort of royal functioning.
But it looks like the Queen has said something else.
Well, the Queen has... I think... Simon knows more about this. I mean, the palace are very worried that he is going to cash in on his royal title style. He's going to keep his title, Sussex, but his royal style as HRH, he and Meghan can't use that for a bit. as Robert Hardman just said then, they're sort of on probation so far as that's concerned.
So, Russell, in terms of the shock, you could clearly see there was a little bit of shock because he did expect to still carry out some kind of royal duties. Why do you think the Queen, the palace, just chose to quite, you could say, a harsh reaction or offer to Harry and Meghan?
Well, certainly they haven't got the deal that they set out, which is the one that they wanted. They wanted to have, a part-time royal gig, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and to to potentially trade on their royal connections, to go into the global corporate world and make millions, which is what they've been told by PR gurus both sides of the Atlantic. Now, the Queen, Charles and William, the senior royals who made this decision, told them in no uncertain terms that wasn't possible. And I think in the video you've just seen that Harry conveys that sadness. He said that he would have wanted to have this sort of dual role, but it was put to him that just wasn't possible. And the reason for that is over the fears of potentially sullying the royal brand. And I think that Meghan and Harry have given up quite a lot from their starting point.
Simon, would you agree with that?
Yes, I'm going to agree with that. The HRH is interesting. There is definitely a way back for Harry and Meghan on that. So they're not using it, but they are definitely not losing it completely. So there is a way back there.
So what does that mean if there is that way back?
If they decide after this year's probation that it's not working in California or wherever they are based and they want to come back to royal duties, it's hard to see that happening right now. I agree. But, everybody's sad. There's a pragmatic attempt to try and make it work. They want Harry to be happy. Of course they do. But they couldn't allow this third way between royalty and celebrity. The royal family have never done that. You can't have somebody cashing in on their royal title. That would affect the whole royal family. That's why they were worried.
Could I just come in there, Simon, and to Matthew? There is another possibility that, Meghan and Harry are very close to the Obamas. The Obamas, the former president and his wife in America, they have a charitable foundation which quite respectably sells T-shirts and things for good causes. If they set something out like that, and there's a lot of evidence that is their plan, and they become a sort of, a charitable force in their own right, all these things they've been saying about wanting to bring people together, not divide them, that could prove a way back or an independent way. I wouldn't quite agree with you, Matthew, about them cashing in. I don't imagine.
I think the issue here was that they should have had some form of strategy or plan, and they didn't really know or understand what they were getting into. And it seems as certainly the Queen and Charles had told them to hold off putting out any statement, to seek the advice of the senior courtiers, and they didn't want to do that. They were panicking, and that's why they released their statement.
Okay, well, so sorry, so we'll come back to all of you in a moment. But one of the projects that Harry will continue to pursue is the Invictus Games. Now, that is, of course, the international sporting competition for injured service personnel that he founded back in 2014. Earlier, I spoke to its chief executive, Dominic Reed, and started by asking him his reaction to the couple stepping back from royal duties.
Well, I don't think it's what any of us wanted. It's an unfortunate turn of events, but it certainly doesn't affect his relationship with Invictus. And Invictus, has been a very important part of his life for the last 6 years. He's very much the instigator of that, and he's absolutely committed to it. So his commitment to that is undiminished. So in that sense, it doesn't affect us. But personally, I would have liked to have maybe perhaps seen him stay.
Because I understand that they are still working out what those duties, the duties he does carry out, how that will continue, because he can't do it as a representative of the Queen. Has Prince Harry, has the palace confirmed what kind of role he will play with Invictus?
Yeah, for Invictus, it's really straightforward. So, I think people are confusing military appointments. For example, Commandant General Royal Marines, where you're appointed by the Queen into that position. He's not going to be taking those things forward. But he is our patron. He is the sort of the founder of the Invictus Games Foundation. He's always done that in a private capacity. So if you look at his travelling abroad and being at the Games, which he has a fantastic record of doing, he's done it in a private capacity. When he came to Australia, if you remember when he'd recently just got married, that was divided. There was a state visit component to that, and they went off and they went to Fiji and Tonga and New Zealand and other places. But his Invictus work is private work and always has been. So that remains completely unchanged.
fine, fair enough, it is private work, but he still did this work as the driving force, as you said. He still did this as Prince, as HRH. That is now going. He can't use that title. So are you worried that this could definitely impact the Invictus Games? I mean, the HRH, him being a Prince, he brought star power with that, surely.
I'm not worried about that. He's still Prince Harry. He's still the Duke of Sussex. So, I mean, I think it'll take a long time for people to decide kind of where he sits in their affections and all of that. That clearly needs to be something that sort of takes its time to unfold. But no, I don't have any concerns.
Has he spoken to you about any of this, given you the reassurances that's led you to be so confident?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, apart from the fact that we're in regular contact, I spent some good time with him on Thursday, and it was absolutely abundantly clear that his, if anything, his energies are sort of redoubled because he's got the time to do it, and he's got what he sees as the latitude to do what he wants to do, which is fantastic. So no, absolutely no question. Definitely, from our point of view, he's fully engaged.
Okay, Dominic Reed, really good talking to you. Thanks so much. What was so interesting about that interview is that reassurance he got from Prince Harry. That was on the Thursday. He got the reassurance that the Invictus Games would be okay. And obviously the weekend we had that bombshell from the palace from the Queen. Do you think the fact that he can no longer use that HRH, Simon, do you think that it could take away star power from any charitable causes that he does
I don't
work with?
think so, or indeed the business ventures that they set up. I don't think it will. I mean, Harry and Meghan are two of the most famous people in the world, so they don't need HRH in front of them. I was there that day. We saw the footage of them in Toronto at the wheelchair tennis at the Invictus Games. That was their first public appearance together. That's not even 2.5 years ago. It seems like light years ago, given everything that's happened. But I think in terms of making money for charitable foundations, that's not an issue. They can make as many T-shirts as they want. The issue is making money for themselves as a production company, possibly with Netflix, who knows? That's where the issue comes in, the Sussex Royal branding. Are they going to be allowed to use that? Big issues that haven't yet been sorted out.
I think, to jump in, I think they should abandon the Sussex Royal branding. I mean, they're being told they're not royal. I don't know what Harry has got specially to do with Sussex or Meghan. It's an antique old posh title. They should brand themselves Harry and Meghan and go out to the world like that.
In terms of the speculation, in terms of commercial work, I know, Robert, you were saying that they might focus on more charitable foundation work, but they still need to make money. What do we know about whatever commercial projects might be in line for them?
Well, like Simon says, they could set up their own production companies. Certainly the boss of Netflix this week has spoken about how he'd love to work with them. We already know Harry had a venture with Oprah Winfrey, with Apple TV. So these are the sort of level that they're playing at. And certainly the global giants of the corporate world will be queuing up to work with them. They have such star power. They've turned, their global attention into a huge following on Instagram. And whether they keep the Sussex Royal branding or not, I believe that they would just turn, everything they touch turns to gold at the moment. So this is remains to be seen who they will actually be able to work with and whether that will cause problems with the palace down the line.
And really quickly, Robert, this isn't anything new. You always have issues with royal spares. Very quickly.
Sorry?
Royal spares.
Well, yes,
Margaret,
I mean,
Prince
it's
Andrew
a very depressing thing to be a royal spare. It was the same with Princess Margaret, Prince Andrew. They start right up there in the line of succession. They get pushed down and down and down. And not surprising, it has a depressing psychological effect on them.
OK, Robert Lacey, Russell Myers and, of course, Simon Vigo. Really good talking to you all. Thank you.